the thing that I cherish most is my relationship with music and the joy that it brings me. So if I make any decision that tarnishes that, I run from it.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you. Hearing Inter R by the Mark Guiliana Jazz Quartet. Guiliana was born in 1980 to schoolteacher parents in New Jersey. He grew up listening to Soundgarden, Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Dr. Dre. And at the relatively late age of 15, he took up drums, almost on a whim. Mark's instantly recognizable creative voice is a clear extension of his personality, both cerebral and emotionally immediate. While his virtuosic foundation comes from his devotion to post-bop heroes such as Tony Williams, Elvin Jones, and Roy Haynes, he's also drawn inspiration from the meticulously programmed, glitched out, electronic world found on Warp Records. Now one of the most celebrated drummers of his generation, Mark's multifaceted career encompasses work as a sideman, educator, author, and increasingly as a band leader. His many collaborators have included Donny McCaslin, Avishai Cohen, and Brad Mehldau. His profile was elevated when he appeared on David Bowie's final album, Black Star. That performance got the attention of one of Mark's early heroes, Matt Cameron, whose solo album, Cave Dweller, featuring Mark on drums, will be released on Friday. I spoke to Mark in Seattle after a recent performance. His new quartet album, Jersey, will be released on September 29th. With a tour to follow. And now my conversation with Mark Guiliana.
My parents were always interested in me just staying busy. So my brothers were great athletes. They played baseball through college, Division I baseball. And I love sports, and I would always play all three I'd be playing soccer, basketball, baseball, just always running around and busy. And then, as I got older, the competition was more of an emphasis, and that's kind of where I disconnect from sports a little bit, where when it gets all about the fierce competition, I'm like, all right, there goes the joy, So I think I stopped playing maybe soccer first. And so now my falls were empty. So my parents were like, all right, well, find something, And my cousin had a drum set, and I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll try drum lessons. So it was very, I had no expectations.
Did you connect with the instrument right away?
Yes. I had a great first teacher named Joe Bergamini who lives in New Jersey, and that was pure luck because he was simply the local teacher. So it wasn't that I sought him out. I sought out the one local teacher, and it was, I feel very lucky that it was him because I think his love for the instrument and his love for teaching really helped me connect to the instrument. And for whatever reason, from the beginning, I really wanted to do the work. We didn't play drum set for a couple months. It was on the pad and very technique driven and a lot of reading. And I wanted to do that. Looking back, I don't know why, but I loved all the minutia, and I was excited to practice all the boring stuff that we need to do.
Is it boring?
Well, it can be very dry or academic, you know.
It's not as sexy as playing in a rock band or
Exactly.
like what you were listening to at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, so I feel like I don't know why I wanted to do that work, but by putting that time in from the beginning, it really helped lay the foundation for actually starting to play music, you know.
What made him such a great teacher?
I think one thing I didn't realize it in the moment, but now looking back, one of the huge things was that he was just a living, breathing, real life example of, oh, you can do this. You know, he's 10 years older than me, so he was
Relatively young.
He was 25 and I was 15.
Yeah.
So, but he's playing, he's in a couple bands, he's on a couple records, teaching a lot, and we went to the same high school. He's just a normal guy, you know. So when I would turn on TV and see Matt Cameron, now becoming friends with Matt, I realize he's a normal guy and a sweetheart, but I didn't think that when I'm seeing him on MTV. It's like I didn't feel a connection, or I didn't feel this, oh, I can do that, you know.
Right, it seems so larger than life.
Exactly. So it took so Joe was a great real life example of someone I could say, oh, okay, you know, I could look at his path and really learn from it in a more realistic way.
Let's talk about your inclination to do the work. You strike me as a somewhat detail-oriented person. You're aware of the pH level of the water that we're drinking right now, and you're super into pour-over coffee, and your playing seems like it's the extension of somebody who's pretty detail-oriented, very clean. Would you agree with that characterization?
Yes. I think it might not be true in all aspects of life, but as a whole, yeah, details matter to me.
Do you feel like learning how to play these rudiments and the process of mastery, is that something that resonated with you?
I didn't, not in that moment. I didn't see it anything more than just like, oh, this is what he told me to practice, I'm going to practice it.
Right.
You know, so in the beginning, I was nothing without great teachers. After Joe, I went to John Riley, who is an incredible teacher and musician. And so I was really they took me by the hand and really step by step. It wasn't until later that I was needing to think for myself and figure out how to take that path to mastery, which is I'm very, very far from it. I think it's in some ways very refreshingly impossible to arrive at, and that's what actually keeps me going. I'm kind of working on the same stuff I've been practicing for 15 years, and it's really simple, but it doesn't mean that's easy, you know, and I'm always finding new ways to improve it, and that's what excites me. I'm not in any rush to work on something else, or I don't feel like if I dedicate my time to that, it implies that I'm not doing something else. You know, I'm happy to just live with that stuff and know that it'll allow me and help me to make the decisions I need to make in the moment. I've always had this slight underdog mentality, which I think has been very helpful, and sometimes I could use that. Sometimes maybe I've even amplified it in my own mind as a self-defense mechanism. I think I started a little bit late, and we were talking about competition before. Thankfully, in the music that I like to make and that I'm attracted to, it's void of competition, hopefully. And but in high school, you try out for all state or all county band, or you auditioning for colleges. So I never made any of the county state bands. I got rejected to the colleges I applied to. I was on the waiting list at William Patterson, which I eventually got into in New Jersey. And rightfully so. It's not like chip on my shoulder, oh, I should have got that gig. It's like, no, there were always guys better than me.
What does that mean, though, better?
Let's just say they've been playing the instrument longer than I have, so maybe they're further along. So in regards to an audition, if you're asked to play a certain piece or, a composition, they might have technique. Because they've been playing the instrument longer, they have the technique that allows them to play that thing in a more musical way, but just call it time spent at the instrument. And I loved that. I never thought, why didn't I get the thing? It's like, okay, cool. And
And you also never thought like, oh, maybe I'm not meant to do this?
No, because it wasn't, it was logical in my mind. Oh yeah, it's kind of new, And I never thought that I was like put on this earth to play music or any of that stuff. That feels like this incredible external pressure, or internal pressure rather. For me, especially because there was no music in my family, I was just going about my business and just gravitating towards this thing that brought me joy, and if it only remained as a thing that brought me joy and I never became a quote-unquote professional or anything, that's cool too. But I think that's been helpful to keep the perspective that I choose to play from. And I think that it's also, not to oversimplify it, but I just feel like I'm just this normal guy from Jersey, and I found something that I love to do, and I just want to keep doing it. And that's just that, and the feeling, the experiences I've had playing music with other people, and the way that's made my body feel, that's what I'm chasing.
Yeah, tell me how that feels.
Oh, I wish I could tell you, but I can't. I have no idea. That's the mystery, and that's why it's a constant pursuit.
Can you remember the first time you got that?
I think it evolves. So I remember being in high school playing like Green Day covers with my friends, and it's like, whoa, so that's a feeling that I can never have again, that exact feeling. Yes. And sometimes I wish I could play like my 16-year-old self, and I just can't.
Right.
I can't, because I've gone to music school and I've thought too much.
And you've lived for another 20 years.
Exactly.
The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click donate.
I wish I could describe that feeling, but it is outside of family and that stuff. It's the thing that brings me the most joy, and it's not predictable. The times, just like many things in life, the times that I plan on it the most, it's not there. The times I'm not thinking about it, it appears. The times that I'm most tired, it picks me up. All these different things. It's really an incredible thing, and that's the single thing that keeps me going. So,
have you ever worried that you are losing it? Like, has there ever been a period where it's not happening?
There have been times where I've felt just a little bit, maybe there was a time where I said yes to a gig because it paid a certain amount of money, or I thought other people would be impressed if I do a certain gig. And then I get there and it really, the joy isn't there. And I've done my best to immediately remove myself from those situations, because the thing that I cherish most is my relationship with music and the joy that it brings me. So if I make any decision that tarnishes that, I run from it. I have to run from it, because without that, I don't think I'd play music, So I'm just always trying to surround myself with people that inspire me, and situations that give me the best chance to get to that place. It's not guaranteed, but I just try to put myself in the environment that will allow me to find that joy, And as I've gotten a little older, and now with a family, to justify leaving the house, it's in much more in pursuit of that feeling and that joy, rather than economic conditions or business decisions, because I feel like I can justify being away from my family, knowing that I'm getting filled with life, and I can come back to them alive, and hopefully if there's some money involved, great, that's very helpful too.
But it also does seem like if you're following that joy, and that's inevitably going to lead you to be the best musician that you can be, and then theoretically money will follow, or more money than if not.
Yep.
I think that's a really brave choice. I know lots of people feel like they have to compromise more than that. But have you found that to be the case?
Yes, and I feel like money is, we have what we need, and if there was more, cool. If there was less, we'd figure it out. We'd be cool. But just to be able to sleep at night alone in a hotel room, I have to really feel good about why I'm gone, and money doesn't make me feel good about being gone. I could figure out ways to make probably more money staying home. Sure. It might not be playing music, but it's more that feeling. And if I could bring that back home with some money, I think that feels like a greater value,
Sure, and you want to set an example for your family that you're pursuing something that brings you joy.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, well, so let's back it up a little bit. When did the underdog thing start?
I was in the shadow of my older brothers athletically, happily, because they were really stand out in the newspaper every day, and Allstate, this and that, So having the Guiliana on the back of the jersey as the younger brother, it was like, oh, what you got, And I wouldn't change that. I'm grateful to have them as older brothers. But when I found music, it was like, whoa, okay, maybe this is a place to be the first version, at least from my family. So it was part escape, and then also, loving it. But I think that underdog thing is I had nothing to lose, because before athletically, there was already these expectations. And musically, there was totally clean slate, and started later than the other people I knew.
What do you think are some of the most important things that you have learned about yourself through music?
I think trying to be present and be in the moment.
Are you present and in the moment kind of by default?
No.
Are you more thinky?
A little more thinky. Yeah, to you. I think I'm a little more thinky. I think I'm better at it in music than I am in life.
Do you feel pretty happy most of the time?
I'm super happy. I've actually been, I'm happy. I'm happier than ever. But I've always been pretty happy. My parents provided a really strong base, and pretty kind of normal in a good way. The good version of normal upbringing, Jersey suburbs. And so everything was built in a strong way, and now the love for music and the pursuit of that and the emphasis on creativity is really that keeps me really happy.
What are you prioritizing in your life right now?
Well, family, that's always number one, and just trying to be a good person, just trying to...
Good luck with that,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Well, how did you meet your wife?
She's a singer, and we met in New York. It's a really small scene, and then we played together. She asked me to do her gig. We did some tours as friends, and then it led to starting a family. And it's great. It's amazing. And
did you have any apprehension about starting a family, given that you're traveling a lot and you wanted to pursue this music thing too?
No, because I knew it was always something I wanted to do. Just didn't know with who, and it's like this whole music thing is so crazy anyway. It's like I couldn't wait until it would be more comfortable, because I don't know if it'll ever get more comfortable or quote unquote easier. So it's like, no, let's just do it. It feels right. I think what I've been learning more and more is to make decisions from my gut and less from my head, because if I really thought about having a baby in my head, I could think of many reasons why it would be so challenging. But if I listened to my gut, it was a very quick decision, and of course, a joint decision with my wife. But so family, and I'm learning that there's many different definitions of what it means to be a father. So I'm trying to not beat myself up all the time for being gone, and understand that maybe by being gone, it's affording other opportunities, so that when I'm home, and stuff like that, But musically, to get back to what you're asking, the focus now is on my own music. I think, from the time I got out of school until now, I've been predominantly, by vast majority, a sideman. I've had incredible experiences, and I plan on being a sideman to a certain degree forever, because I always learn so much and, all that stuff. But in the last couple of years and moving forward, I'm really trying to shift the pendulum to where the majority of what I do is present my own music. It's always been a passion to present my own music, but it's always been in the cracks of being a part of other people's music. I learned quite early that if I want to say something, it's much easier to just create the environment and say it, rather than hope someone asks me to say it in their music, because that rarely happens.
Do you try to make compositional decisions from your gut as well, or do you have to think about it more?
I have to think about it. It's not a very natural process for me. I have to create a really comfortable environment and get to a good place to where I'll even allow myself to think any ideas are good, So
allow yourself to think that any ideas are good.
Yes, because this might be a bit of a backfire of the underdog idea of like, oh man, I can't write a song. And it also comes from, I'm so lucky to get to play with really some of my favorite musicians and some of the guys that I really admire.
Okay, so one thing about this whole underdog thing is, especially in the last 3 to 5 years, your profile has risen a lot, not only the drumming world, but the jazz world, and then once you worked with Bowie, the rock world and the pop world. And so it seemed like, from an outsider's perspective, like you had kind of arrived as a figure. Is that at odds with the way that you see yourself?
Well, I guess one way to answer that is that I don't feel any different. And it doesn't take much effort to in a beautiful, inspiring way, think about the guys who I think have arrived, and that I'm nowhere near that, you know. So I still have the guys that I point to as whether they're, Elvin Jones or Jim Black. You know, those are in the same way. They provide a similar inspiration of like a unique voice, and I still feel like just a fan. So yeah, I'm grateful for any of the recognition, but I'm also very aware of what led to those opportunities.
Yeah.
And I do my best to continue to do what led me to them as opposed to behave differently since,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the dark side of that mentality could kind of veer into the territory of, oh, well, Elvin already made 100 records, so why bother? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Elvin's already done it, so unless what I'm doing is at that level, then it shouldn't be put out there into the world. So it seems like that's kind of the self-imposed mindset that you try to escape sometimes.
Yeah, one inspiration for the first the first jazz quartet record came out a couple years ago, and all of my statements as a leader before that were more in the electronic realm. And I really wanted to, it's almost like, this is looking back and a bit of dramatization, but it's almost like I spent 10 years trying to convince people I wasn't a jazz drummer, But then I thought like, wait, but hey, don't forget I am, like I want to make a personal statement. So to very intentionally choose tenor saxophone, piano, double bass, drums. I mean, man, Coltrane Quartet. It's like it's a tried and true, template, and potentially very intimidating. What the hell do I have to say in that sonic realm that hasn't been said? But with that limitation, it was actually really liberating. And even with the drum set, I put great limitations on the setup. 2 cymbals and the 18, 12, 14 tuned, and really going for that thing. Essentially playing, without doing the research, maybe the most used setup in the history of the instrument.
Right.
And now, and then it was like, okay, now say something.
One thing that I'm kind of picking up from our conversation is that you're a very grateful person, and you're very aware of how lucky you are to have had the opportunities you've had, and to have played with the people that you've played with. But really, how much of these opportunities do you feel was luck, and how much of it do you feel was the result of hard work? And do you think that hard work and luck are mutually exclusive phenomena?
I think they have been both. All of the situations have involved luck, but relied on the hard work. So I think the initial creations of the situations, or the initial opportunities, a lot of them were based in luck, right time, right place, that kind of thing. But it was the hard work that confirmed the relationship. So, for example, if Brad, say we were talking about Brad, it's like, oh, we had some mutual friends, we kept in touch, oh, let's play, If I sounded like shit, we wouldn't have played again. Or if he didn't like where it went musically or whatever, so I think the hard work, that was a longer relationship. Mm-hmm. But like the idea of, someone just saying, hey, I think we should play, or bumping into someone or being recommended, there's some luck involved in there. But then, okay, now we're in the room together and it's time to play music. the luck got us in the room, but what is going to make the situation happen or not is reliant on the work that's been put in.
It also seems like, and I don't know if you feel this way too, but if you take it back to the beginning when you were 15, I mean, how lucky is it to find something that brings you that much joy when you're 15? That compels you to want to work that hard.
Exactly.
I mean, who else finds that?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know many people outside of the music world that find that.
Yep.
Like you say, you know, your brothers were excellent athletes, but you can only be an athlete for so long.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to find something that you can do for the rest of your life at age 15, that's kind of amazing, right?
Totally. And I think, again, that nonchalant, like, oh, I guess I'll take some drum lessons, or I guess I'll keep practicing. It's fun. I guess I'll go to college for music. Oh, okay, I got waitlisted, but now I got in. So, yeah, I'll go. And then even in that, I guess I'll keep going. And that's actually been helpful, of like, just kind of keep doing it. I don't want to think too much about it, because that's when it might feel too big or change. It might force me to change my altruistic, simplistic view of it, you know? But I am, again, very protective of that view and doing everything I can to like keep it that way, you know? Because that's kind of what you said before. I think that's what will make me the best musician I can be, and therefore lead to the best situations, and so on and so forth.
Can you think of an example of a mistake that you've made as an artist and what you've learned from it?
Well, okay, it's more of a perspective mistake, seeing things from the wrong place. Like when I first started playing with Avishai, that was the first gig in which most people heard me for the first time, because it was the first time I was really on the road, and records that got heard and things like that. And by definition, I became, that's who I was to people, basically. And so here I am playing in a piano trio, and it's pretty quiet and a bunch of odd meters, and it had this certain thing. So it was like the odd meter piano trio guy, you know. And that used to frustrate me, and I was very proud of that music, but I felt like I had all these other statements that I wanted to make. And it would frustrate me, of like, no, I mean, yeah, this is cool, and I'm proud of it, but, you know, I play like this, or I want to do this thing, or, you know, and I thought that was just being young, and I think maybe some decisions I made inside of the music weren't completely for the music, because maybe I had some other stuff I was just itching for people, that I wanted people to know about me, and it might have been in detriment to the music at times, maybe. And that's when I started to realize, okay, if I want to say something, I just have to create the right opportunity to say it.
Right.
And that's when it led to writing some music, calling my best friends who are great musicians, and starting bands, and just you figure out how to book a gig, and you figure out how to get people in the room, and figure out how to make a record. And then the more outlets I had, especially of my own, that's when I felt like I could really treat each situation, you know, with the best care for that situation, and know that, oh, you know, I might be itching to say something else, but I will have the time and place to express that. And the idea of like wishing that the audience knew about all the other stuff I was doing, or all my other interests. It's like that. How dare I? You know, if they even know who I am, or if they're even in a room hearing me play music, that's incredible. And it's on me to, through art, if I want to, you know, tell them who I am. Otherwise, you know, not just assume that they poked their head into the rehearsal room in college and heard the weird, you know, free metal stuff we were playing, or whatever, you know. So
Yeah, I always think of it like if you're playing in someone else's band, it's like you're acting in a film that they wrote. Mm-hmm. You can't just invent your own dialogue.
Yep.
You have to direct your own movie if you want to get that idea out there.
Totally. And that was I guess, I don't know if it's exactly a mistake, but it is something I look back on and, feel like I was just a bit anxious, and now that, to take responsibility, not blame it on anybody else. If I'm only known as one thing, it means I'm putting one thing out into the world, and that could be cool if that's your one thing. But for me, like for example, I was playing a lot of acoustic music, Avishai and other sideman situations, so that my leader statement was a lot weirder and more electronic to kind of balance it out. And then over time, I started to get calls for more of the electronic thing in the sideman realm. So that's what eventually led to wanting to create my own acoustic environment.
Yes.
And now that both exist, I feel really at peace. And I feel like when I go and play someone else's music, I'm so happy and hopefully ready to just deal with that music and do my best to give it what it needs, knowing that if I have some other stuff to get out, I'll have that opportunity.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee. Handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
As a father, what are your hopes for the world that your children are inheriting?
Whoa. That it's still here? Shit.
Do you think it will be?
Yes.
I feel like having kids is sort of a leap of faith, like in that regard. Like if you actually believed that the world was going to be blown up by nuclear weapons, maybe you wouldn't have kids.
Maybe. Yeah. No, I think one thing I've been trying to get better at is really try to identify the things that I can control and can't control. So for me, it's like just create, try to instill good principles and, hopefully you surround yourself with people that inspire you or like-minded and create good. And I believe that there will always be, at the very least, pockets of good, and hopefully those, maybe at times they diminish a little bit, but I think it'll fluctuate and we'll see what happens. But yeah, just maybe try to just share or help shine a light on good. And then he's going to make his own decisions, but it's like, hey, this stuff's cool, and then leave it,
Yeah.
And even just now, my son's only 3, but it's like the music, I'm really, really aware of the music that I put on at home and trying not to say like, you should like this, but it's just on, So, we might listen to A Love Supreme almost every day, but it's
that
not.
could go one of two ways.
I know. But
he could become a hedge fund manager and like never listen to Elvin again.
That's okay. Then he could buy his parents a nice house.
There you go.
But no, I think again, it's like all I can do is share the things that have made me feel good. And it's more about the feeling they've given me rather than the details of the stuff.
Right.
So it's like, hey, this makes me feel great. Like, look for the stuff that makes you feel great, you know? And he's too young to talk about it for now, but it's like surround, you know, it's really nice to wake up and put on, you know, make some breakfast and put on a record that just like lifts the energy in the room. And, you know, he knows, well, I can say this, the first song that he's learned all the lyrics to are the first track on Love Supreme. It's pretty easy lyrics, you know, but he can sing along. So, but yeah, it's, I think just that thing of like try to help agree, or just agree as a family as like the good, and then try to chase it, you know.
In the villa of our men, in the villa of our men, stands a solitary candle. In the center of it all, in the center of it all, you are.
Let's go to some listener questions.
Folks are wondering what your experience was like working with Bowie.
In 2014, David collaborated with Maria Schneider, who's an incredible composer and arranger in New York, and she has a big band. And he was a fan of hers, and he approached her to do a song together. And Donny McCaslin has been in Maria's band for 10 plus years. And I think there was something, I got recommended to be on this track, and something about what David presented reminded Maria of something on Donny's records that I had played on. So we did that one song, and it was incredible. A couple rehearsals and a day in the studio, and that ended up as one new song on a greatest hits compilation. Came out later that year. And then after that experience, well, just before that, actually, he came to see us. Maria brought him to see Donny's band. Jason Linder on keyboard and Tim LaFave on bass. We were playing at the 55 bar in New York. So he came and he heard us kind of throw down.
Did you see him?
I saw him out of the corner of my eye. We didn't meet him that night. He came and left before we could meet him. But I saw Maria, and then I saw a guy next to Maria with a Kangol on. And I was like, oh, cool, I guess that's him, you know. But no one recognized him. He was pretty good at being pretty undercover, you know. And then after the session with Maria, David reached out to Donny and said, hey, and I think it was even partially Maria's idea. Like, she's like, you should just do a whole record with those guys. So they were in touch, started sending some music, some demos. One thing leads to another. We were in the studio, and the experience itself. What can I say? I can't say enough great things about him. You know, incredibly kind, incredibly generous, so funny, so smart. It was really special because it was a very all the takes were done as a band, and he was in the room singing with us. You know, he wasn't in a booth. So if he sang, it was at a small studio called the Magic Shop.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. And we were all pretty close together to the point where, I mean, he would sing loud. So there'd be times where if he's singing loud enough, it's getting into the drum mics, and the drums are getting into his vocal mic, you know.
Just like how they recorded a Love Supreme.
Exactly. It's like, whoa, music can still be documented in this way, you know. And I think that absolutely, that's the only way we could have gotten the performances we got on the record. And I hope that people can hear that it's some dudes in a room playing music together, because that's what it is, plain and simple. But you know, everything was a take, and Jason had a lot of overdubs and Donny had a lot of woodwind overdubs. So the priority was you of course need to select the take in order to know what to add on to.
Right.
So it was basically like, hey, are the bass and drums cool? Are we happy? And if so, then let's start doing the overdubs. So there will be some days we moved really quick, and David really liked early takes, keep it fresh. So there would be some days where it might be a first take, and then Tim and I, we get there, we're playing at 11, and by noon, Tim and I are on the couch in the control room for the rest of the day. And that was so special because that was really getting to hang with him and the conversing. And he was, talk about being present. Wow. So present. And so committed to the moment and attention to detail and, depth of knowledge.
Yes.
Wherever the conversation would go, whatever field, equal depth of knowledge. Like it was, I wouldn't say intimidating because he's so warm and so welcoming. But it was just like, of course, we're talking about, maybe if you're talking about British rock in the 70s, David Bowie's going to know more about that than me. But then it goes to art in the medieval era, and then it goes to geography, and then it goes to religion, and it goes to film, and it's just this vast knowledge wherever the conversation would go. It was really inspiring.
It seems like he really, over the course of his career, but especially in your case, went out of his way to choose people to do what they do. And that's something that, when I spoke to Dennis Davis, he said the same thing.
Totally.
But how did he direct you to get the results that he was looking for while allowing you to retain your own identity?
All the songs had demos. So, and really everything's there on the demo. And the drum parts were programmed or loops or whatever he was using at home. So my singular goal was to interpret those parts on the acoustic drum set, bring them to the kit in a performable fashion, because some of the loops were by definition impossible to execute, so that was the challenge but really, really honoring the demos. And we all did that as a band. I think we got it to the point where we were essentially playing the demo, and that became the meeting point. Mm-hmm. And I feel like by doing that, it was almost like we earned, it's like, here you go. We've realized the demo. Now what do you want to do? And sometimes realizing the demo was kind of the thing for a certain tune, and others he would say, okay, all right, well, we got that, now let's go for something else, so it was a nice balance of honoring the demo, honoring his parts, and
so he programmed drum loops.
Oh yeah, like the beat on Black Star, that's his beat.
Really?
Totally his beat.
It sounds like a broken robot
in
the best way,
right. Totally. It's like, and I love, in general, I love trying to tackle drum parts that were not created by drummers.
Yes, that's my favorite.
It's fascinating. So it was, incredible experience.
That kind of brings us to our next question. We're in Seattle, and one of the folks that was in attendance last night was the great Matt Cameron. Mm-hmm. And you recently played on his solo album. And I was talking to Matt last night about it, and his first exposure to your playing was the Black Star album, mm-hmm. because he's a massive Bowie fan. But he was so taken with it that he hired you to play on his album. And so things kind of came full circle. I mean, you grew up, watching him on MTV.
Yep.
How was that experience for you?
Amazing. Amazing because Matt's amazing, he Yeah, it's so the music is music that he's written, and he's playing guitar and he's singing, and similarly, these songs had demos and the drums were programmed. It was so I was just trying. I mean, I think of him as one of the best drum part writers in the history of modern music.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, like that guy's parts.
His feel is unbelievable.
Exactly,
everything.
exactly.
Yeah,
But the decisions. I mean, so it's like, who am I to play anything other than what he imagines is appropriate? So.
But he could have just played it himself.
I know.
So he wanted something from you. What do you think that is?
Well, some of the songs he did reference, like, it's a performance, but it has a certain precision that gives it. We're not trying to trick anybody into it being a programmed thing, but it could lean towards that and have that feeling. And at any moment, humanity is injected with whatever it may be, fills or nuances that clearly make it a performance. But some of the tunes were rooted in a kind of programmed-ish thing. But yeah, I mean, that's a good example of just like trying to serve the music and serve someone else's vision the best I can. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a little bit strange to be playing a take and look through the glass and see Matt giving the thumbs up, but he's an incredible human being. Wow. And it only makes me appreciate him as a musician more. It's a really special guy.
I think he's a great example as far as what we were talking about earlier, as far as like trying to live your life in a certain way and make decisions a certain way, and then abundance follows.
Yep.
In some cases.
Yep.
If you're lucky. Aaron asks if there were any landmark practice routines or concepts that changed your playing.
Nothing to single out, but the one thing I would say is that the landmark stuff happened by playing with other people. Mm-hmm. Practicing is essential, but I think practicing can make you a better drummer. But from my experience, playing with other people is what has made me a better musician.
Right.
And if I ever had the chance to choose between the two, 150 times out of 150,
yeah,
I would choose to play with other people.
I would always rather have sex than masturbate.
You said it. Let me add to that. I would also add going to see music that inspires you over practicing. I found that, especially in college, being so close to New York, every night there was an opportunity to see one of my
10
favorite
different things.
So if I ever had the chance of like going to see music, one of my favorite musicians, or playing with other people, that always came first.
Mike asks what your favorite movie is.
Fight Club.
Really?
That's an easy one.
All right.
I have a Fight Club collection at home, actually.
What do you mean a Fight Club collection?
I have the book. I have, the different U.S. versions, and I have a signed copy of the first edition, and then I've gotten some, and when I see it in another language, I grab it. It's just, Chuck Palahniuk. I would love to meet him, sit down and have a coffee with him. But
let's do it.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Fight Club.
What would you ask him?
I would just ask about, as an artist, I'm really curious about the process. I mean, he's actually really transparent, and there's a lot of material and even some online courses. I'm not a writer, so I didn't participate in the courses themselves.
Yeah.
But he is pretty transparent about his process.
He has online courses.
Yeah, I think there's lots of essays that he's written and like semi-educational things that he's shared. But I would ask about the process. Writers in general, I'm just fascinated by. It's like that can be some lonely shit.
Yeah,
for
sure.
And like, how do you balance? How do you be a human being and be a brilliant writer?
Lots of them aren't able to pull off both.
Exactly.
And lots of musicians aren't either. I mean, lots of great musicians were terrible parents. So that's why it's so inspiring that you're going for it.
I'm going for it. I'm
making it part of your music.
all in. Exactly.
All right. I think we're done with the questions because people are just getting too nerdy on here. And
Okay.
we don't need to go there. They can come to a clinic.
Right.
Thanks, Mark.
I use 2 sticks.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.